if my computer like started giving me an attitude after, I don't know, like typing something for a while.
Could you imagine like it just being like, I'm done. It's 5 o'clock.
Be like, hey, man, you've been writing the same thing for like 2 hours. Let's take a break. Chill out. Come on. Just give me a break.
Please stop pushing the E key. I'm tired of that. Hey, Science Pals. Welcome back to another episode. I'm Grace.
And I'm Josh.
And together we discover strange things about the world around us.
Ooh.
What a time to be alive. I'm getting ready to start my giant travel schedule where I will not be spending any weekends in New York for the next like 9 weeks.
Yeah, we've been like really working ahead because Grace is literally going to be gone for like a month.
In Iceland and Mexico.
Yeah. And so hopefully viewers and listeners out there there will be no difference. You won't know Grace is gone. But yeah, you
just might get a couple snappy sciences of Josh back to back to back.
That's true. That's true. I might take over the snappy science for a month, but that's fine. But yeah, I was just going to ask, how you doing? How are things?
Oh, it's okay. I'm doing well. I'm ready to go to Iceland.
Yeah.
So this weekend I have Michael's sister's graduation and then my sister's graduation the following weekend. And then I'm in Darlington for a race. And then I'm in Iceland. And then I'm in Mexico.
That is just stressful hearing about. Just hearing about it. I'm stressed. So
I know. One of my really good girlfriends here, she was like, "You're doing what? And how are you?" She's like, "That sounds miserable." And I was like, "Yeah, I know."
Yeah, that does sound a little miserable.
when it rains, it pours. Am I right?
I do know that. Yes, I'm familiar with the rain. So
yeah, I'm not too upset about going to Iceland though. Like I'm not upset about that at all. That's fine.
Yeah. I'm so mad. The drummer in our band, Lantern by Sea, check us out. Went to Iceland semi-recently, and now you're going to Iceland. You
gotta go.
I gotta go. Somebody
you gotta go to Iceland.
Take me. That needs to How long is the flight? Do you know how long your flight is?
It's not bad from New York.
Okay.
I think I'm flying alone. Like this will be my first international flight solo dolo.
Oh wow. Because I know when Tate, who's our drummer, went, I think they were doing it kind of on the cheap to try and keep the cost low of the flight.
The flight is so expensive to get there. It is like the most expensive portion.
So they definitely didn't fly direct, and it was like they were flying for 24 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Because of layovers and whatever.
Yeah, it's doable. It's definitely not like brutal.
Yeah. Well, somebody take me to Iceland. Anybody out there, listeners? Take me to Iceland.
Someone take Josh to Iceland.
I just want to go to Iceland.
Oh, man. What's been up with your life? Anything good?
Oh, just the usual. The band just played a show in Boise, Idaho. First time ever being in Boise. Yeah. And it turned out to be like a really killer show.
I love that.
It was packed. The crowd really liked us. We had tons of people come up to us afterwards and just say like the classic, like, I'd never even heard, I didn't know you guys existed, but I had to come talk to you, which is so great to hear. Like that's amazing. So yeah, it was super fun, and we might be recording some things soon.
Fun.
So we're working on that. We're working on some music videos and stuff. So yeah, busy.
Look at y'all.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Shall we hopscotch over to some ratings and reviews from Apple Pod?
We shall hopscotch over.
So this rating and review is also the topic for today. Ooh. It says, "Heyo, love the pod," from EJKAAAAAT. EJ
Oh,
Cat.
yes. EJ Cat.
We know EJ Cat.
Yeah.
They said, "Hey guys, I hope you read this on the podcast. I love the podcast so much. I'm kind of excited for Mondays because you guys are always so interesting because it's always something different. Here's my idea. What is the science behind coding? Or you guys can talk about certain types of coding and what it does." And then they gave us a joke. Are you ready?
Okay. I'm ready.
You know their OGRT from the joke.
Yeah.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Cat.
Cat who?
Cat you mean? I don't know.
EJ Cat, we're too dumb.
Right back. Explain.
Yeah. Explain the joke, please. Sorry, we butchered it.
It's happened. They all said, also, I have a question before I end it. Am I OGRT if I was here before you guys made that up, but much after the podcast started? I came when the cheetah episode was made and have listened to every episode, but the episode that first came out while I was listening, which was Cows and Aliens. Bye. Yeah, you're OGRT. We've had this discussion before.
Yeah. I think actually, I mean, we're reading this review because this is what we're going to make the podcast about today. I think we have read this one before. I remember them saying that. You know, I don't remember us getting the joke then either, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
But absolutely, you're OGRT.
Absolutely.
Really, I feel like at this point, if someone wants to be OGRT, they can be OGRT. It's like just a state of mind. Like you can be, you know, you're OGRT if you want to be OGRT.
I completely agree with that. I completely agree. I think it is a state of mind.
Yeah.
Like I think after you've listened, in my head, if you've listened to 5 podcasts, you're OGRT.
Yeah, that feels right.
Like you're invested now.
Yeah. Okay. I've got one from yet another nickname. They titled it Thanks. I've really enjoyed listening to this podcast. It has also helped inspire me to start my own. Thanks for the inspiration. I've been watching TKOR since Grant was still on, and this podcast is a wonderful addition to the channels.
We love that.
Then they dropped a beaker. Nice.
We love that.
Yet another nickname. Let us know what your podcast is. That's exciting. That's very exciting.
That's so exciting. I would love to listen. Maybe we can do a little crossover promotion.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
We love that. All right, EJ Cat and yet another nickname. Thanks for writing in. If you guys want your rating and review read on the podcast, make sure you leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or send us an email at randomtheorypod@gmail.com.
Yes, we appreciate it so much. It really helps out the channel. The ratings and reviews really help out the podcast. And, you know, the emails, we just like hearing from you guys. It's so great to hear from people listening.
Without further ado, coding.
And
I will tell you about the first computer programming language right after this break. It was created in 1883.
Oh, man.
And get this.
Yeah.
It wasn't a man that created coding. It was a woman.
Oh.
All I know, I'm going to get up on my feminist step stool right now.
A step stool. Okay.
Ada Lovelace.
Yeah.
Set the groundwork for what basically every system runs on today.
Wow.
Without Ada, and there's this other guy named Charles, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, Charles.
Okay.
Without Ada and I guess Charles, quite literally, the phone you are listening to this podcast on, the computer you are listening to this podcast on, the podcast platform, the way it was coded would not be possible without them. The way that I'm looking at this camera right now, quite literally, no technology would be where it is today.
Oh, wow.
Coding is the axis, the keystone to which everything stands on currently.
So true.
Which is why I'm stoked about this podcast. Because people look at coding and they're like, oh, it's just ones and zeros and it does X, Y, and Z. No, it is so much bigger than that. And before we even get into this podcast, I'm almost done with my soapbox, Josh. I'm so sorry, I promise. Okay. Before you even jump into this podcast, you need to learn coding. If you are 10, if you are 5, if you are 6, if you are 35, if you are 40, you need to learn a little bit of something about coding. And if you're a little munchkin listening to this podcast, learn coding because it will literally set you apart. You will be able to change the world. You will be able to go into a top tier position because if you understand coding, you will get ahead in life. End of story.
Amen on that. That's all I got to say there. I mean, that was just, we could probably end the podcast there, but I think we should keep going.
I'm just like, yeah, we probably should keep going, but I am a huge proponent of coding. It is its own language. It is a language in itself. It is like you learning Spanish, French, Dutch, whatever you want to call it. Like,
and you're so totally right about like, I feel like even me, when I saw like we were doing one on coding, my immediate thought, I go to like the stereotypical lines of code, people, writing it on it. But it's like, it is in everything now. Like it is so
everything
crucial to like everything in the modern day. It's not just the person coding, like a web page or the person coding a video game or something. Like, no, it is everything.
It
has
is
some
like
coding.
all AI is coding.
Well, yeah, absolutely. We did that whole podcast on AI. Listen to
and
that.
AI is a code. Like
Yeah,
at the
AI
end of the
is
day, it's a code.
Absolutely wild. And shout out to Ada.
Go Ada. Shout out to Ada. I hope you guys are as stoked and fired up about this podcast as I am now. Because I'm ready. I'm ready to go.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get into it then.
Ada Lovelace worked with Charles Babbage on his very early mechanical computer, the analytical engine. While Babbage was concerned with simple computing numbers, Lovelace saw that the numbers the computer worked with could represent something other than just amounts of things. Ada saw the big picture here.
Yeah.
She wrote an algorithm for the analytical engine that was the first of its kind.
Wow.
And because of her contributions, Lovelace is credited with creating the first computer programming language. And as different needs have arisen and new devices have been created, more and more languages have been evolved and created.
The fact that happened in 1883.
Yeah, right?
That's wild.
It's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
So computer programming languages develop through a series of numerical or alphabetic codes and instruct machines to complete specific actions. A computer code functions much like a manual in a way for whatever you're using. And a programmer or developer writes instructions describing the information and tasks needed to create a visual or to perform a task. Computers scan extensive code manuals incredibly quickly, like faster than you and I can even process. Then they execute the task that create and run a successful website or application. Displaying an image or section of text, changing font styles, and opening emails all require instructions included in a coded manual inside your computer.
Amazing.
It is amazing. Like you think about it, like just checking your email or opening your computer, and you just take it for granted. But it took a code to get there.
I mean, that's like if you look at anything, like when everyone out there is following Grace's soapbox advice from the beginning to learn coding, like you're gonna get into it and you're gonna learn how to make something say "Hello World," and that is gonna take like 10 lines of code just for it to say "Hello World," and it's insane. Yeah,
I took coding in college and I loved it.
Yeah.
It's really annoying to learn at first, but once you get it, it's very, very understandable and you can use it quite easily.
Yeah.
But what does coding mean and what does coding do? So let's start with the definition of coding in simple terms. So coding in computers is the process of writing instructions for computers that we call code. And through coding, humans can create instructions that computers can understand and execute.
Okay.
So let's go back to 1883.
I'm back. I'm in the time machine. I'm rolling back.
So imagine we're with Ada and Charles. So we're on first name basis with these people. We don't need the last name.
Obviously, yeah. I mean,
they were using an analytical engine to compute Bernoulli numbers. Yeah. It's considered to be the first computer programming language. And the Bernoulli numbers are a sequence of signed rational numbers that can be defined by the exponential generation function. So this is like saying N1, N2, N3, N4, N5.
Yeah, those.
And these numbers arise in the series expansions of trigonometric functions. Yeah. Yep.
That feels
that are
right.
extremely important in number theory and analysis. Basically, this was just like assigning a number to a letter and then like using it, essentially.
The fact, it blows my mind because like I am not, we say this all the time, like we're not geniuses here at all.
Yeah.
Or even close to it. And I especially like any sort of math and stuff. I am just not good. And the the fact that, again, like, it just blows my mind. Like 1883,
Right.
they were doing these kind of, I guess I'm like,
Well, they didn't have Netflix or anything. They had to do something to entertain themselves.
Oh, that's so true. They weren't just like melting their brain watching 400 episodes of
Love
The
is
Office.
Blind.
Love is Blind. Wow, burn on Love is Blind.
Now we're jumping forward in time to 1952, which is AutoCode. And AutoCode was a generic term for a family of early computer programming languages. And the first was developed by Alec Gleaney for the Mark I computer at the University of Manchester in the UK. And some consider AutoCode to be the first compiled computer programming language, meaning that can be translated directly into machine code using a program called a compiler.
Okay, that's a big step.
And then Fortran came onto the scene, and this was in 1957. So I had to learn Fortran, and let me tell you, it sucks.
Okay.
Fortran sucks. It is so hard to learn. It is hard to understand. It is yucky. So if you can avoid using Fortran, avoid it. But it's important to know because it's quite literally the oldest computer programming language that's still used today.
Okay, wow. I've never even heard of Fortran.
We use Fortran in meteorology with old data, with data, because it just does such a good job. Because Fortran quite literally stands for formula translation.
Okay.
So it's really good with formulas.
Formulas?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. It was created by John Backus for complicated scientific, mathematical, and statistical work.
Okay.
It's very nice once you learn it, but it is a pain in the booty to learn how to use.
It sounds like one of those things where I was just watching an MKBHD video. They were talking about when, like, an office, specifically like government jobs and stuff, but it sounds like maybe meteorology, where they have like super old technology that it's just too much of a hassle to change, so they just keep going with it. Like,
it's quite literally why Fortran is still used.
Sure. It's just like it would be too much work and just cause too many problems to change to a different thing. So we're just gonna keep using this super old programming language.
It's crazy. So everything that we're talking about right now are different coding languages. So then in 1964, BASIC came onto the scene, and it was developed by John G. Kemeny and Thomas E. Kurtz. And it was so that students who did not have a strong technical or mathematical understanding could still use computers. And BASIC stands for Beginner's All-Purpose Symbolic Instruction Code.
Okay, BASIC.
And this is important because a modified version of BASIC was written by Bill Gates and Paul Allen. And this was to become the first Microsoft product.
Oh, wow.
Ha.
So Microsoft was built on BASIC.
It was. I'm sorry if y'all can hear the sirens. They are ripping today in the city. All right, 1972.
Okay.
C was developed.
Okay, yeah.
By Dennis Ritchie. Everyone knows C or C++.
Sure, I've heard of that.
Yeah, Dennis Ritchie and Bell Labs. C is considered by many to be the first high-level language. And a high-level computer programming language is closer to human language and more removed from the machine code. And so C was created so that an operating system called Unix could be used on many different types of computers. And it's influenced many other languages, including Ruby, C#,
Yeah.
Go, Java, JavaScript, Perl, PHP, and Python. Which Python is another one that is just like pain in the booty.
Yeah. I feel like those in there are where I've like had a tiny bit of interest or like experience, but still not much.
Just enough to be dangerous.
Just enough to say hello world, and that's about it.
So in 1978, Matlab came onto the scene, and this was developed by Cleve Muller
Okay.
And Matlab stands for Matrix Laboratory. And this is what I used all throughout college.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes, it is what I used all throughout college. I was very proficient in Matlab. I love Matlab. And it is one of the best computer programming languages for writing mathematical programs and is mainly used in mathematics, research, and education. It can also be used to create 2- and 3-dimensional graphics, which is so cool because you can literally take the data and make 2- or 3-dimensional graphics out of it. Like I had to do it in my labs for meteorology, and it is so cool.
Yeah, that's wild. I've never even heard of Matlab, but I guess I'm not spending a lot of time in those circles.
Yeah, mathematics, research, and education.
Yeah, that's not where I usually hang. So,
And then we're going to round this out with 1983, C++. Okay. It's basically one of the most widely used languages in the whole entire world. C++ is used in game engineering and high-performance softwares like Adobe and Photoshop. And most packaged software is still written in C++.
Interesting.
Now, you will often hear the terms coding and programming being used interchangeably, but it is important to note that they are not the same thing.
Oh, shoot.
Coding and programming are not the same thing. So coding is the exercise of writing the code, and it requires a proper understanding of the syntax of the coding language, and you can then use that to understand and compose the code that forms your program. This feels like the difference between like baking and a baker.
Oh.
So on the other hand, I'll clarify that in a second. So on the other hand, programming refers to all the processes involved in creating programs or software. This includes clearly defining the problem to be solved, identifying solutions, determining trade-offs, selecting an efficient solution, coding, testing, and debugging.
Okay, that makes more sense.
The baker would be the programming. And the baking would be the person doing the coding.
The actual coding.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like coding is just a specific process within programming.
Yes. So programming would be the baker telling you exactly what you're going to do, how long you're going to bake something because of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. And baking would be actually coding something.
Yes.
Yeah.
So another analogy is like writing a novel. Coding is like the writing process as it involves choosing the words and following grammar rules. And then programming is an analogy for the entire process, including defining the plot, character development, and all that good stuff. So programming is like the higher level. Right.
It's like the step up. If you're in like a hierarchy tree, programming encompasses coding. I absolutely used those interchangeably. So
let's talk about the importance of coding and why we need it. Computers have the ability to process large amounts of data quickly and correctly, and they can also perform repetitive tasks consistently without getting bored or tired like humans can.
Dude, could you imagine if my computer like started giving me an attitude after, I don't know, like typing something for a while? That would be...
Could you imagine it just being like, I'm done. It's 5:00.
Be like, hey, man, you've been writing the same thing for like 2 hours. Let's take a break. Chill out. Come on. Just give me a break.
Please stop pushing the E key. I'm tired of that. I never thought about that. That would be hilarious.
Yeah, I feel like, it would be hilarious for a moment and then just ruin everything.
With all of that, these attributes make them ideal for handling automation and solving complex problems. Coding has been used to power many of the technologies that make our lives convenient, from communication, transportation, entertainment, healthcare, agriculture, finance, and more than you can probably even like fathom.
Yeah, agriculture is the interesting one there in that list.
It makes sense though, because like a lot of agriculture is changing over, and like it's not so much like Farmer Joe on the farm. Like these tractors are smart now. Like they have all the data and information on how many rows they can put in a field and what needs to be pulled and what needs to do X, Y, and Z, and the exact specification of how big the field is. It's really crazy. Like these tractors drive themselves now.
Which is wild. That's really
crazy.
Wild.
So what are some examples of what coding is good for? I'm just going to like run down a list.
Okay.
obviously software development, obviously web development, database management, automation, kind of like we talked about before, data analysis. So analyzing large sets of data using like the language Python or R.
Okay.
Obviously artificial intelligence and machine learning. You're developing algorithms and models that allow computers to learn from data and make predictions and automate decision making.
Yeah.
Cybersecurity, that's huge.
Sure.
Writing code to protect computer systems and networks, robotics, obviously, and then scientific research.
Yeah. Robotics. I didn't even think about that. I also have a little experience there as well because I was big into that when I was a little kid.
I love that. Robotics is so much fun.
Yeah, it was. I had that like the Lego set that that had little motors and you could program it. I loved that thing, man. That
was
awesome.
So fun.
Yeah.
It's called like Lego First or something like that.
Well, no, I think it might be now.
Okay.
Back in my day, I think it was called Lego Mindstorm. I want to say was the name.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
The set, yeah. But you could like, it had like little motors. You build stuff, and then you could plug in the brain essentially to your computer and program it. I don't know what it was, some proprietary like software that they used, but I'm sure it was built off one of these languages.
So my big question is, should you learn to code?
Right.
Is that something that you should do? And if I haven't sold you on it yet, I'm gonna sell you on it again. Coding is one of the most popular skills for various careers. You can go into any field with coding.
Yeah, I mean, based off of that list you read, I mean, literally, even if you're a farmer, you're going to encounter some coding, it sounds like. So,
and the trend is only going to continue to rise. So if you are still unsure, let me convince you by listing some reasons on why you should take the leap. Because my children are going to learn coding language.
Yeah.
It's not a question. It's not up for debate. Like, they will learn coding languages. Because yes, you need to be able to talk to people in other languages, but quite literally, coding is going to take over our whole world. Like, you will be setting yourself up for success now if you start learning coding at a young age.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
And you can do it for free online. That's the crazy part.
It's true.
Quite literally, you can just go online and be like, free coding or whatever. There's there's games on your iPad that you can download that are coding games.
Yeah.
They might be in the kids section, but like, who cares? Does it matter? No. Download it. It's better than you watching Netflix or playing a stupid game on your phone like I have. Download a coding game. End of story. Okay. Improve your problem-solving skills. Coding increases a great deal of critical thinking. Oh my gosh, there were so many times I sat at my computer and I was just like, I don't understand why it's not working. But you have to get creative when you code. You will learn how to properly define problems, identify possible solutions, consider the trade-offs of each, and select the most effective.
Okay.
What more could you want?
It's for me, like, that is huge. Like, obviously you're going to talk about a couple other benefits, which are very important, but like, especially in this day and age of, the TikTokification of everything, where everything is like this constant little hit of dopamine and so momentary that people don't even really think. Like, you don't even, you don't think about things.
You don't have to.
You don't have to. It's just given to you. And so
computers do the thinking for you now.
Right. And so developing problem solving and critical thinking skills, like, that is
huge.
For me, this is my soapbox. It's a soapbox within a soapbox here.
I love it. Go.
That is it. Like, critical thinking is so important, and I do feel like it is a skill that is getting pushed aside, because stuff is just given to us constantly. We don't really have to think about it, and that is so detrimental to a person. Like,
it is.
You have to be able to think critically and work through problems, because that is life. Like, life is full of problems, and stuff is not going to be given to you, fed to you like TikTok.
Facts.
And so, being able to identify solutions, trade-offs, all the stuff you said, not only will help you in code and get a job, but I think it will also massively affect your life and you'll be better for it.
There's also nothing quite like the dopamine hit of your code working.
Oh, true.
Like, I have been driven to tears for my code working.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. That's so true. But yes, that's my soapbox on critical thinking. I'm
like
popping
it.
off.
I'm here for it. You'll have access to a wide range of career opportunities. It's no secret that coding is a skill that can open doors to numerous career opportunities, but coding is an in-demand skill amongst many industries, including technology, finance, healthcare, agriculture. Like we talked about before, it's literally everywhere. And by learning to code, you can explore careers like game development, web development, machine learning engineering, data analysis, and so many others.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can automate repetitive tasks. So computers are unlike humans since they don't get tired or bored like we talked about before. As long as you have sufficient power, they will continue working. And this makes them ideal for performing tasks like data analysis, web scraping, transferring huge files, etc. But learning to code, you can write scripts to automate performing these tasks for you.
I've seen stuff like that. People talking about things on Reddit and stuff where people will be like, oh yeah, I just wrote a script to do this thing for me.
Michael was able to do that with his previous job.
Really?
Like, it was so repetitive that he, like, in his sheets, like Excel sheets, he was able to like code repetitive tasks.
Yeah.
Where he could just drop in a file and did all the work for him.
That's wild.
Crazy.
Good for him.
You also are going to improve your digital literacy. So this refers to the effectively understanding and using digital technology. So when you learn how to code, you'll better appreciate how technology works, and this can help you use technology more efficiently to solve your problems.
Okay. I got it. The soapbox is coming back out again real quick. Sorry.
Do it.
Just on this, because this is something I've seen in my own life, going along the same lines of the TikTokification of everything. This is huge because, you could argue like, well, more and more kids, more and more people are on technology in their day. They have a phone. Everyone's got a phone now. But I think that I think people are becoming more and more digitally illiterate because an iPhone is designed to work in a very specific user-friendly way, and so you don't have to think about, well, how does it work? It just works.
Right.
And so and the same thing, like, I have a Mac. They do the same thing. Like, it's just supposed to work and you don't really have to think about how it works, and that's it. And I have seen that in my life, my like social circle of people, if some little thing goes wrong with a computer or a phone, they just crumble and they're like, oh, I don't know. What do I do? What do I do?
Yeah, quite literally.
And so, yeah, I mean, that is another huge thing of like, just being able to, we have all these tools that we're constantly using, and just having that little upper edge of like knowing how it works is so beneficial.
It is. It's crazy.
Yeah. Okay. Soapbox done.
I like it. So if you want to become more digitally literate, here is what you can do to get started in the world of coding. So you can decide what you want to do. So coding is very broad, and there is a lot of areas that you can branch into. Like we talked about before, like you can quite literally go and read on the internet all the different things that you want, that like coding can do.
Yeah.
Next, you can choose a programming language, and there are a lot of programming languages as well. Here is my advice to you. Learn one language. I learned Matlab. Learn one language, because if you try to learn more than one at one time, you will not be successful. You have to pick one, and once you know one language, every other language begins making sense.
Yeah.
They all very much follow the same structure, but you got to learn one first. Every single one has their little quirks, but choose one. And the popular opinions for beginners are Python, JavaScript, and Ruby. But know this, there's no perfect language out there.
Right. Each one's going to have its problems and difficulties and whatever.
And its limitations.
Yeah.
Like you might want to do something, but you can't on that program and software because it's not equipped or made to do that.
Right.
So know that it is better to choose the best for your interests and your goals.
Right. Which that's why the first step was deciding what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then going from there.
So next you need to set up a development environment. So you'll need a computer and a code editor, which is called an IDE, to write your code in. Visual Studio Code or even the Atom code editor is a good option for anyone that's a beginner in this world.
Yeah.
Then you're going to start with the basics. Learn the syntaxes and structure of your chosen programming language, as well as basic concepts like variables, data types, and control structures. Because some of them are picky, like maybe you need a period on the end, or maybe you need a comma or a semicolon to close off so it knows like, oh, this is all I'm doing for this section. So it can be a little finicky at sometimes at some points.
Yeah.
Then start working on a simple project. Build your way up to more complex ones, but try to build things that require you to apply what you've learned while requiring you to learn new skills along the way.
Yeah, that's great.
And then lastly, practice, 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 practice. The best way to improve at coding is to code a little bit daily. And you should also challenge yourself with new problems. I'm sure there's some kind of software out there that gives you a little coding problem every single day, or a software that like helps you code a little bit every single day.
My one advice on those things, because this is what helped me. So like, if this is not your thing, it's not your thing. But I decided to stick my toes in the pool of basic game development. And there's, the reason I'm saying this is, as far as like writing something and seeing a result, that was it's a very direct, you write something, you hit run, and then, the character moves because you coded it. Like, it's just a very, you get that hit of dopamine.
Yeah.
Very like visually, and it's very obvious. And that was super helpful, like motivating to me to try and keep going into it.
And I think what's cool is like if you really wanted to, like within a year, you could develop an app. Like if you worked on it for like 20, 30 minutes a day, you could develop your own app if you wanted to.
Yeah,
20
absolutely.
to 30 minutes a day of learning to code. 365. Yeah. What is 365? Listen, all I'm saying, I'm on another soapbox. I read something the other day, and if you're still listening to this podcast, thank you. I read something the other day, and it has stuck with me so much. The hardest thing to do is to start.
Well, absolutely.
The hardest thing to do is to start anything, to start learning how to play guitar, to start learning how to code, to start learning how to yo-yo. But you just have to start. Start with 10 minutes every single day. And in 1 week, see how far you've progressed.
Yep.
If you just worked on something for 10 minutes every single day, 10 minutes, hold on, I'm doing math real quick.
Okay.
10 minutes times 365 days, that's 3,650 minutes. Divided by 24 hours in a day, you spent 152 days working on becoming better at that one thing. And that's already better than 95% of the people that were going to do it and didn't.
There it is.
Like quite literally, 10 minutes a day amounts to 152 days of doing something.
And that's the key, is like, that's a lot of days in a year.
Yeah.
But it's really not. And also you're only giving up, if you think about it that way, you're only giving up 10 minutes of your day. 10
minutes to learn a new skill, to do something new, to try something new.
To better yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm stoked. I'm going to go do some 10 minutes of coding every single day. That's all you got to do. That's it. That's it. Yeah. And you could have an app in 152 days if you wanted to.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And again, you can have an app or you can just, you better yourself. You're developing these skills that could help you in the future. Yeah. Not only career-wise, but also just be a better person, I'm here for it. Yeah. Yeah. Guys, that's the podcast for today. Write a rating and review. Let us know what you think about coding, if you're here for it, if you're not. Send us an email at randomtheorypod@gmail.com. Send this to your friend that is going to try something new, is looking for a new hobby. This could be it. I hope we inspired someone today. That's all I can ever ask for, is that we inspire one person. Totally. I mean, with the amount of soapboxing we had going on, somebody out there either turned off the podcast or got very inspired. So
Yeah, one of the two. Either way,
Yeah.
it be how it be.
It do be that way, yeah.
All right, I'm going to go work on practicing my yo-yoing because I've been practicing for 10 minutes a day.
Okay, I'm going to go clean my soapbox, and then I'm going to maybe do some coding.
All right, we'll see you next week, Science Pals. Try something new and don't be scared to fail.
Bye!
Bye!